Here is the new version of those wings. So this rod here was originally 18 inches. On this design it's 24. I actually had to find a new type of bar. So this is stuff that I got. Way more difficult to work with than the stainless steel rod was. As you can see, it was easy to get veered off on my drills. So what I had to actually do is do a center punch, drill it out with a very tiny drill bit, and then bring in the larger drill bit at that after the fact. And that way I was at least consistently getting closer to center. If I was just trying to drill out with that original size hole, it was twisting and turning, and well, as you can see, burned through on that one. So as you can see, way more impressive as far as the wingspan. So I'm thinking that's going to work. So I'm getting ready to button this up, put the body on it, start turning it into something that looks like a gargoyle. So I had to consider what I was doing with the wiring here. Now I could just have the whole thing turn on and off, all lights, the head, the wings, all just turn on, turn off. But why do that when I can control the fear? This is a pickaxe CHI-030. This is actually the first pickaxe board I ever bought. I'm very fond of these boards. Reason being is that while the pickaxe goes here, a 12-volt Darlington goes here, and what a Darlington does is allow you to switch, well, 12-volt items. And so I can basically determine what turns on, when it turns on, how long it stays on for, when it turns off, how long it stays off for. So that's what I'm going to use. So now I had to figure out a way to get all this information up to the gargoyle. So I am very fond of RCA. Easy to use, much easier to use than these guys. Speaker jacks, much easier to use in the cold climate for sure. And so what I've done, I've got a little diagram drawn out of how things are going to go. And by draw out, I do mean draw. I don't have no fancy computer program to do that, nor do I have the time or inclination to learn how to use one. So here it is for what it's worth. I said I did not have a fancy computer program to draw out the schematics, nor do I have the time or inclination to learn said program. So what I have here is a reasonable hand-drawn facsimile. Now I could have just applied 12-volt power to all of this at once, maybe through a relay, and turned it on and off that manner. But why do that when I have the capabilities to turn each of the individual items on and off whenever I wanted to? And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'll explain this schematic hopefully in a way that you can understand. But it is me after all. So here we start with the control. And so what this consists of is two things. A pickaxe CHI-030 project board with a Darlington driver, which allows the logic level pickaxe to switch 12-volt items. LED eyes, LED flame, vent motor head, or a 12-volt relay. That is connected to an RCA output jack. I'm very fond of RCAs. They're easy to work with, much easier to work with than, say, something like a speaker input. These things are a pain in the butt when it's cold. Well, that leads me to this. This is a 12 volt double pole double throw relay. These I actually picked up years ago when I first got into animating my yard. And in conjunction with this, they have ran my yard basically from the beginning of my animatronic career. As you see, that's also connected to an RCA output jack. The reason I'm using a relay instead of just trying to get the wiper motor to go through here is that the wiper motors draw way too much current for these guys, so it would end up cooking this. So I use this to simply switch the relay, and then the switch side of the relay does all the heavy lifting. There is the receiver part of the Gargoyle, which is, again, an RCA output jack. This is connected to a multi-strand wire, and this has pairs of wires, so 2 greens, 2 blues, 2 reds, 2 oranges, 2 whites, so on and so forth. One of those pairs will always have a black stripe on it, and that I've designated to be negative. So let me just kind of walk you through this a little bit. This is all going to be put into a container and put in the pillars, one of the pillars, and then from there I run RCA cables from here to here, and that's what provides the conduit for the signal. So just going in here, see I've got these named B0, B1, B2, B3. That is the naming of the pickaxe in-out pins. These values may change. I just put on there right now to give us some reference. You see from there, travels up to the center point. So this is the center pin that I'm using. Center pin on these, right? And the outer ring is this part. Okay, so from the center pin, it's going up here. Eyes negative, head negative, flame negative. And that will switch those on and off. Now what I've done is I've gathered up all of those positives into one, and I've tied them in to this here, which is 12 volt positive. Now let me explain that. In order to do that, I have to go down here to the relay. What's this guy? So basically you have common, normally closed, and normally open. Okay, so the common goes up to the wiper's 12 volt in, which is the low speed line or the high speed line. Right now I'm kind of leaning towards the high speed. So in its normally closed position, I have the wiper park hooked up to that. So as soon as this de-energizes and it returns to normally closed, it's going to continue around until it reaches park. So that's how we do that. Now on the normally open side, what I've done is this is a complete 12 volt system. So 12 volt positive in the middle, 12 volt negative on the outer ring, or 0 negative on the outer ring. Okay. So what that does, I didn't actually have to run this up here if I didn't have anything else that I needed to run off of there. I could have just left it down here, had that go to the 12 volts and then switch off. But because I have these other items, and also because I have to connect up the wiper park plus or positive voltage to it, I needed that 12 volt to go up there. So basically what happens up here, this switches, powers everything, the wiper park positive is attached to this, so once this is de-energized and it goes back to the normally closed position, this will provide enough juice to the wiper motor to get it around to that park feature. As well, this is going to also connect to the wiper motor negative through the outer ring. And I'm gathering up all of the positives from the eye, the head, and the flame, tying them all together, and also tying them in to the 12 volt positive. So, just to go over this again, Darlington driver will turn all these 4 items on and off in whatever sequence and way that I choose. These 3 will just go up here and just do the switching for themselves to the negative pole. All of their positives are tied into the 12 volt line here. The Darlington will also go to the switching side of the relay, and then energizing it, turning it from normally common to normally open, or normally closed to normally open, allowing that wiper motor to run, and then when it de-energizes, it will take it back to closed, allowing it to return to the park. Alright, here it is in action. Everything's hooked up. Wrote a little program. So it's you'll see some eye blink like it's waking up, and then it will go through the rest of its program.